Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're looking at the New York Knickerbockers taking on the Indiana Pacers here as the lone NBA playoff game on Friday night. Going to be taking a look at best bets in this particular episode. Also have another one up with playa props as we're bringing you these each and every day now moving forward throughout the postseason. Want you to head to thelines.com in there. Make sure to check out the props tool that we have on there and all the content that we're putting up right now to help you with all these bets, series prices, and the like as we continue to roll along through this postseason. Nate, I don't think the Knicks are going to win this game personally, but I didn't bet a side in this one. What's your first best bet for Pacers-Knicks?
You didn't think they were going to win the last one, so please excuse yourself from picking.
I'll see myself out. That's fine.
Just two symmetrical blowouts here, and now we enter Indy, which we were talking about. We do expect the Pacers to win at home and there to be a Game 7 here, but I think the Knicks are going to absolutely go for it here in terms of like not seeing what we saw in Game 4 where they just punted after a little bit, because they don't want to play a Game 7 on short rest on Sunday afternoon and then have to play the Celtics 2 days later. They would very much like to just have Game 1 against the Celtics. So after this, my angle here is both teams to score over 101, which is the lowest total you can go and still be in the negative in terms of odds. Like I think you can actually bet this up to 103.5, 104.5. And then you're still not, you could still get over this without going over the game total at 215. But I mean, the Knicks, their total at 104.5 is pretty low considering this is an Indiana Pacers defense. And then it's the Pacers at home. So, I mean, we've had these symmetrical blowouts where one team only got to like 90 because they basically had to pull the plug and they just had nothing going. But in this spot at home, I expect pace and space, Indiana Pacers basketball, and points. And the difference with the Knicks offense from what we saw in Game 4, I mean, first of all, it's extra rest. It's 2 days off after they, got even a little extra rest after blowing them out in Game 5. But it's the starting lineup change, right? I mean, and then everything that dominoes from there, that you put Deuce McBride in the lineup. They had a 127 offensive rating with him out there. Then you mix in more Achua instead of Hartenstein. They had a 147 offensive rating with Achua out there. 115 pace, which is crazy pace for the Knicks here. And of course, still no OG, who's gonna hurt your defense all over the place. Like I still think Siakam could get going against Achua or Hartenstein or whoever is out there against him. DiVincenzo, had a fantastic Game 5, didn't even hit a three. Like he was not even a factor really offensively. And I mean, that's going to regress positively. What was he like? 22 for 30 or 35 in his previous 4 before the blowout in Game 4. So he was red hot, including a huge Game 3 to keep the Knicks close in that one. Jalen Brunson, clearly okay, not out of gas, clearly just snatching souls, leaving people on the deck, just like some of the nastiest moves you've ever seen. So Aaron Nesmith was not able to completely shut him down or even come close. And then we should get aggressive Halliburton, right? I mean, we'll get into this in player props, but like when he didn't take many shots in Game 1, he came right back, 7 for 11 from 3, 34 points in Game 2. Now he's home, where he has been far more comfortable in this series, where the Pacers are averaging 120 in these playoffs, shooting extremely well, rebounding the ball better, which I think is important for this because it means fewer long Knicks possessions, and it means more opportunities for the Pacers to get it and go. I mean, at home, they're getting 18.5 fast break points this series, 58 paint points, and that's when they get to score, right? And if it does come down to the wire, clutch numbers indicate the Pacers are a horrendous defensive team in the clutch. They're really a horrendous defensive team at all points, but I trust the Knicks to keep scoring. And if you're telling me they have the lower team total here, I think they can get to that team total for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because I think I do. I have I'll just get into my second bet because it's somewhat in response, right? So my first bet here in the second bet for this app is the fourth quarter under, and I'm taking under 52.5, and I'm going with that because I think there's a few outs there. So as far as the first quarter stuff that you're talking about, yeah, I'm sorry, the both teams over 101.5 stuff that you're talking about, I do think it's plausible, but I think the Pacers are going to score a lot of points. I really do. And that was a part of the point you were making without OG. If they do get Precious on there, they can run plenty. I mean, even with Hartenstein out there, they can as well. That's what they do. And I think they will. And I think they know that, and they'll play off the crowd. And maybe whatever, I don't know what it used to be like Allen Fieldhouse. I don't know what it is anymore in Indiana, but whatever their arena is, it's not quite MSG. It's a home court advantage in a backs against the wall game where I think their best player is going to come out and be really aggressive. Tyrese Halliburton, like we said. So the outs that I have for this fourth quarter under to hit at 53 include a blowout. Like that doesn't really a blowout doesn't threaten the fourth quarter to go over. If it's not a blowout, my out in the way I see this going is, yes, I think the Knicks are a better fourth quarter team. I don't think that's disputable because they also have the best fourth quarter player when you need a bucket and an easy bucket. But at the same time, that the Knicks want to play slow. That even when it's Jalen Brunson doing Jalen Brunson stuff, it's still taking a lot of the time off the shot clock, keeping things a little bit slower. And if you need to play big, then that only helps out with that. So, if you look at the fourth quarters in the first two games, crazy high, 69 total, then a 61 total in the first two there. Game one had an 100 pace in the fourth quarter. Game two, each team had a ridiculous offensive rating of 155 from the Knicks, 144 from the Pacers there, which that game, went cruised over because in large part because of those fourths, both those games. But then the last three, 42 points, 46 points, 41. Those are the totals in the last three games of this series. And that includes, so game three was an 88 pace in the fourth. Game five was a 90 pace in the fourth. And game five was that blowout that we obviously know about. But the 100 pace in game four, it was a blowout as well. It didn't really matter at that point too. Like everybody was just like, can we please go home? So like the pace being at 100 doesn't make me think, oh, now in game six that this pace is going to speed up. It's still going to be a lot slower than the previous quarters. And I expect the Pacers to use the first couple quarters to just try to do everything they can to run the Knicks out of the gym. The Knicks might try to take their time, but in the first quarter, they've been scoring alongside the Pacers as well, which you kind of pointed out, or I think you will talk about here in a second, rather. And I think that's still a good reason that points early, not points late, continues to be a good trend to follow up with here. And like I said, the Indy blowout is still plausible. We're currently in the middle of watching the Timberwolves win by 30 against the defending champs. Maybe there's some human nature involved, especially once you go down 15 because the other team just brings it. Tough to come back. So I think that'll be a 60-40 chance that maybe it's a 40% chance that happens. Either way, there's still outs for that fourth quarter to go under, even if it's close.
It sounds like you're kind of really banking on the blowout though, because if this is a close game, that's why the last two have gone under, and that third one was kind of a fluke. I mean, that meaning game three, where the game was flying over, and then all of a sudden everybody just went cold down the stretch, which I don't really trust the Pacers in a clutch situation, like a game within 5 points, to continue doing what they do, because so much of what they do is free flowing. So that's fair. I think they might not go under here. But I absolutely trust Jalen Brunson to keep getting good shots and keep knocking down shots. So I do think we get a close game here. I know I'm looking at the Wolves just blowing them out, but I think the Knicks are a little bit more desperate than the Nuggets in this spot, where again they need to avoid a Sunday game 7 on short rest for their long-term prospects. So I would rather say Knicks to win by single digits, or if you are banking on a blowout, then why not just Pacers -5?
Because I'm not banking on a blowout. You put those words in my mouth. I said there's outs there because the other out is if this game is close and Jalen Brunson is in control of this game, well, now we're taking a lot of time off the shot clock. A made bucket is harder for the Pacers to get in transition. So the Knicks being a better fourth quarter team, and I didn't eloquently express that. So, but to be very clear, the Knicks being in control of the quarter, to me, leans under, right? Knicks winning has been a tendency to go under a bit more. So that's kind of where I'm at with the fourth quarter. That's my other scenario.
I can envision that. Yeah. Because then it's again, the offensive rebound thing where it's just oh my God, this possession is a minute and a half because they just get every board. By the way, Josh Hart rebounds leader is back down to -120 and it was -160. So we can just hit that in general. But yes, I am going to look at the first quarter of the Pacers to come out strong. The complete opposite of what you're talking about with the fourth. For them to score 29 in the first quarter here, pretty good odds. They're averaging 33.6 in the first in these playoffs, shooting an incredible 42% in this series in particular, only 31.5, but a 137 offensive rating. I talked about the fast break and paint points. Those are mainly coming in the first quarter in these two home games we've had here, 17 paint points and 7.5 fast break points per game. I mean, they obviously steamrolled the Knicks in the last one in game 4, but even in game 3, they got to 29 at a 126 offensive rating, with the Knicks playing much better defense at that point because they had OG Anunoby at the beginning part of that game. So, I mean, now we're talking about Deuce McBride, who I do definitely respect what he's done on Halliburton, but I think you've got to expect Halliburton to be better in this game, to answer the criticism and come out shooting, and then that everybody falls in line from there. Role players shoot better at home, with yada yada. I mean, this is just what the Pacers do. I mean, in the Milwaukee series, they averaged 35 a game in the first and didn't shoot as well from 3, in fact. And if you look at the Knicks and how they kind of like pace themselves, like even the 76ers, who love to play extremely slow, averaged just over 25 a game at home in that series in the first round, and they only shot 21% from 3. The Pacers, everything, the ball is always in play. I talk about this, the lowest free throw attempt rate in the playoffs, exhausting the Knicks early, just trying to push. And that's what you want to see if you're going to bet an early over, right? I mean, over for the first half, Pacers to maybe lead at the half. I don't know if I want to mess with that because I do think the Knicks are going to be in this one, but I think this is the cleanest look right here. Is just like first quarter for the desperate team at home and a team that loves to run.
Yeah, that the Pacers coming out strong is definitely something that we're fully aligned on here. I mean, I really do think a lot of what we're saying actually does correlate a bit. The only thing that might go against each other is my fourth quarter under, and both teams get 101.5. But still, then you come back in with your first quarter bet, which indicates you think there's going to be a fast start for at least one of these teams. And if you don't think it's a blowout and you think the fast start comes for Indy, then you think the fast start probably comes for New York, right? So I still think that we're seeing the game flow pretty similar here. And I agree entirely with this one. Maybe a little bit more than the both over 101.5, but honestly, it would be more fluky for both not to go over 101.5, which happened in games 4 and 5. And I would say we're both fluky. And if once again, though, predicated on this being a game at halftime and not a 20-point blowout like we've seen, which is wild how close the playoffs have been in series and yet not within the specific games in multiple series. It's wild. Denver, what is going on? But either way, let me close out here with a nice, simple head-to-head bet that we've talked about multiple times. Going back to it after it got juiced all the way back down because of situation. You'll notice I didn't take Halliburton more threes than JB in the last game, but the previous 2 I did, and it was minus 105 and then or it was plus 105, which was wild for Halliburton to get one more 3 than Jalen Brunson. Then it just dropped to minus 105. I was like, great. Last game, I was like, okay, Halliburton, there's going to be some adjustments. They're not going to let him go crazy in the Garden. And that one turned into, obviously, a blowout in a way that then just took Halliburton out of the game. But Halliburton to have one more 3 than Jalen Brunson, even at minus 140 on DraftKings, this is a context where it's like he's got to be aggressive again. It's similar to the Ant Edwards notion here, although he only went over on the threes, which is fine, because I ended up going with that. But he only went over on the threes, not the points, only because he got hurt there, which was a scary fall. It looks like his back is a little bit shaken up in that Minnesota game. My point here is like it was a right moment for Ant as well, and very parallel situations, because he knows he needs to be more aggressive. They both have admitted in this series, Tyrese and Ant separately in their own interviews, I need to be more aggressive. My team told me to be, and I know that if I take 15 shots, we're not nearly as likely to win as if I take 20 to 25. Well, Halliburton does that 3 games in a row. He takes 10, 11, and 16 three-pointers in those middle 3 games there, including game 2 that they lost, but that was a game that they were very much so in, and haters will say that the refs gave it to the Knicks. Whatever, I'm not even having that conversation. But with JB, it's not his thing. It's not what he's looking to do. He'll take the 3. I mean, he'll take 5 to 6 of them for sure, and I'll still put him at 5 to 6 of them because that's what he's done pretty much every game this series in terms of his attempts. He's averaging 5.8 to be specific. Hallie's averaging 8.9 on the season versus this team. So, he's averaging about 1.7 more threes anyway in these situations where these teams face off is Halliburton. So even at minus 140, if you project Hallie to take 8 to 10 again, which he should have last game, took 4, made one of them, and probably would have taken 4 more if he didn't barely play in the second half. And now you're talking about Jalen Brunson, who has probably going to continue to figure it out against Neesmith, to be honest, especially because if he can get him in trouble, and obviously he needs the whistle a little bit, but Neesmith be fouling, obviously, a lot as well, playing some of that arm defense of just like swinging his arms and not moving his feet quite as much. Because to be fair, Jalen Brunson is shifty, and like you said, he pulled some of the Hakeem Olajuwon-esque footwork out for the last game to put some people on skates multiple times in that game. So he'll still be going to that. He knows he can get 10 free throw attempts if he's just aggressive, and the double team barely comes, which it didn't really come last game. Maybe it'll come a bit more this game, but that's just more reason to believe he's going to get the ball out of his hands. Halliburton, they didn't really double him last game. They're leaving DDV on him. He could have had the shots. He had a couple of good ones, 1 for 4, whatever. I like 3 is good for Halliburton, in my opinion. It's a 3.5 3-point prop, so I didn't even just go to the core. If you're going to take one, like, and you're going to say, like, would you rather take? Well, I probably would rather take Jalen Brunson over 2.5 than Hallie at over 3.5, but honestly, like it's still pretty much a toss-up to me. And the fact that I still can get Halliburton to have one more made 3, then I'm going to keep going until they take it away from me.
Yeah, I mean, Halliburton last seen at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, which is what it's called now, pointing to everybody saying DiVincenzo can't guard him, playing with that kind of confidence after hitting a step-back 3 over him. But, I mean, McBride did spend a good amount of time on Halliburton in this last game, which was a good call by Tibbs, and just because he's quick enough to like wall him off. But it was just like so passive. Like you could just see him like 30 feet from the basket being like, okay, he's guarding me. I'm not going to like try to get the ball. He's going to initiate things now, right? And the ball's going to have life, and it's going to be moving around, and then it'll come back to him, and he's going to be ready to pull. Like this is exactly the pattern we saw game 1 to game 2. So yeah, I like the Halliburton 3s, and Brunson's game is much more inside the arc. So yeah, if it's close to even here, definitely keep hitting this prop.
I didn't know why Dante DiVincenzo tweeted what he did, but if you haven't seen it yet, see what he tweeted about Tyrese Halliburton, where he basically made him out to be Ben Simmons. He was like, oh, when you put your glasses on, you get the right lenses. This guy looks like Ben Simmons. I didn't realize. I was like, that feels like an unnecessary shot, but I didn't realize Halliburton was talking trash in the game before. So a little bit more fun coming in game 6 at Cambridge Fieldhouse, as Nate correctly told us. So that is all the time. Oh, Gamebridge, excuse me. Not Cambridge. That's all the time we have, though, in best bets for this one game we've got on Friday night. We've also got player props specifically in another one. So 4 more best bets in there of the player prop variety. Check that one out. Continue to follow along. And until we see you next, happy betting.